Hey everyone, it's Pat Keegan with the DIY Home Built channel, and I wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about a small problem that we ran into during the design and dimensioning phase of our kitchen. And that problem is going to impact this leftmost cabinet. As we start the next set of videos, we're going to lead off with this base cabinet here that has the four bank drawer partitions in it. And what we ran into was that we did not see that the radiant baseboard heater that's on this wall, which is why it's not currently drawn in the previous video, is going to actually protrude about 3 to 4 inches into the space where this base cabinet needs to go. So I'm going to very quickly draw it here, and I'm going to try to talk fast because I'm just going to make it 10 feet here by 3 inches. And I'm going to try to talk a little faster because my videos, I know they take seemingly a long time, but there's just seem like there's a lot to tell you. So let's take the extrusion tool and bring that up. It's 9 1/4 inches. And you can see here that the baseboard heater is going to just poke right into the back of this cabinet near the floor. And so we're going to have to make some modifications to this cabinet. And it's okay. I'm going to talk a lot, or I actually have talked a lot in the next video that I'm going to post about the safety issues and the things that you have to keep in mind when you're covering a radiant heater. So I'm not going to do that here. If you want to know that information, I encourage you to watch the next video. If you want to skip all that stuff and get right to the action, obviously you can do that too. I promise my feelings won't be hurt. But anyway, this is going to be presenting some kind of a problem here, and that is typical for a custom cabinet job. There's always something that we didn't take into account. It seems like no matter how well of and thorough of a job you think you've done, there's always things that pop up, and so you've got to be kind of flexible in the design. So I'm going to open up a view of the left base cabinet that I already drew. I'm not going to take the time to do the tutorial on this cabinet. I'll do one on the next set of cabinets, I promise. This one is, I'm already going to be talking a lot about what we have to do to modify this cabinet. It's not that complex. It's just good if we kind of illustrate it out and so we know what we're going to go into the shop and build. Okay, so here's the cabinet schematic that we're going to use. Let's just start at the top here. There's things that you notice at the top. Obviously, I don't have a solid piece in here. You don't need to do that. That is a little bit of a waste of lumber to do that, although you could if you wanted to. So all we typically do is put stretchers in. We're going to pocket screw those things in like we've used pocket holes and pocket screws in the previous videos. We're gonna screw them into the sides and the back. Similarly here, the sides and the face frame for the front. You'll notice that this back piece here is recessed about 1/4 of an inch in from the back edge of the plywood of the side walls of the cabinet, and I always do that because there's anomalies in the wall surface that are more easily overcome if you leave a little bit of space in the back of the cabinet. Some people, leave a 1/2 inch. I just typically leave 1/4 of an inch. And if you look at the front of the cabinet real quick, obviously I drew the face frame out here. So there's going to be a 3/4 inch face frame. The total dimension of this cabinet is going to be 24 inches from the very back edge here to the very front face of the face frame. So that means that if I've got a 3/4 inch thick face frame, I'm going to be cutting the side panel 23 1/4 inches deep. That's standard cabinet depth in the kitchen is 24 inches from back to front. At the bottom here, before I go into the back, let's just look at the toe kick a little bit. There's no standard dimensioning on toe kicks. If you try to Google toe kick dimensions, you're going to get 15 different opinions on 15 different measurements. So I typically, again, to make it efficient and easy, I just do a 3.5 inch tall by 3.5 inch deep notch into the side piece of plywood on both sides, and then I cover that with this 3/4 inch toe kick plate that you see here. And I make it 3.5 by 3.5 because if I add 3/4 of an inch here and 3/4 of an inch of the face frame, then I will still be 3.5 inches deep and 3.5 inches up from the bottom of the cabinet or the floor. And that's plenty of room to get your feet underneath there, and it's not too close to the front of the cabinet where you're going to be smashing your toes on this toe kick when you're working at the counter. You don't really want to go less than 2.5 or 3 inches anyway for that reason. Obviously, you can see here a shelf on the side. I just drew these lines on the side of the cabinet. They obviously won't be exposed. The cabinet will look like the back of the cabinet here. You won't be able to see those side pieces, but I did draw them here for illustrative purposes to see kind of an x-ray into the interior of the cabinet. So I'm obviously going to make a bottom shelf for the cabinet as well, and it's basically going to be flush with this top edge of this bottom rail that we see right here. So the back, as I said, is recessed of a 1/4 inch, except for these pieces. So now, instead of being able to go all the way from the top of the cabinet down to the floor, like it would be nice and simple, we've got to overcome that challenge for the radiant baseboard heater. And the way we'll do that is we'll cut 3 pieces for the back. We'll cut the actual back panel that's nearest the wall. We're gonna cut this very small piece here to act as kind of a ceiling in the cabinet for the heater, and then we'll cut another piece here. They'll all be pocket screwed into the side of the cabinet, and again from the bottom shelf here will also be pocket screwed. So it'll all be tied together very nice. The one thing I did want to explain is that you'll notice that, as I've said previously twice now, this piece of back plywood is a 1/4 inch in from the back edge of the side walls of the cabinet. But down here, this guy is 3/4 of an inch in from the back of the cabinet, and this guy is 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge here of the cabinet. And why we do that, you might be wondering to yourself, is because I want to install an additional piece of drywall, believe it or not, tuck it up in here and screw a piece of drywall up here and screw another piece to the back of the cabinet. And again, since I've recessed it 3/4 of an inch, when I put a 1/2 inch piece of drywall on there, there'll still be a 1/4 of an inch recess to the back of the cabinet. Not really needed here because we're going over the heater, but it will definitely still be there. The reason I do that is because whenever you do a built-in cabinet or a kitchen cabinet or something that inadvertently or even by design is going to cover a heat source like a radiant baseboard heater, you want to protect the wood. So even though the wood is not going to be combustible, the combustion point of plywood is much higher than hot water flowing through a radiant heat pipe. Um, but but over years of the heat going on and off all throughout the winter and several seasons of that happening, the plywood, although very strong and very stable, can delaminate over time. The glue can weaken or it just gets old and crusty. I'm sure that if you've done any kind of demolition or construction of older homes, you'll see this from time to time. And so the drywall just kind of helps deflect the heat. This piece here actually prevents heat from getting up into the cabinet, which I don't really want either. So it's adding a little bit of complexity to the project, but it's not anything that's insurmountable by the average DIY home builder. If you've got the gumption to try to build your own kitchen cabinets, then these are some things that you're going to probably have to overcome from time to time, and so they're very, very manageable. If you have any questions, please post them on the video. I'd be happy to answer them. And I have the footage done for the next set of videos. I just have to get to editing them. So I really appreciate your patience and waiting. And I hope these videos help you. I will promise that I will do another tutorial on SketchUp to do either the whole entire kitchen from scratch, which actually doesn't take that long, or if you want to see an individual cabinet like the Lazy Susan that we're going to build, I can probably do that as well. The one final thing, if I haven't mentioned it, is the dimensioning tool. I'm not bad at math by any means. However, I do make mistakes from time to time. So this is another reason to kind of use a CAD program that's very simple like this, is that you can get all the dimensions for your pieces. Like I know from doing cabinets over the years, this cabinet is 14.5 inches. These stretchers are going to fit between the two sidewalls. Each of the sidewalls is 3/4 of an inch. So I know that I've got an inch and a half shorter than the outside dimension. So this stretcher piece I already know is going to be 13 inches. And I always make my stretchers about 4 inches wide anyway. So, the dimensioning tool can just help verify. You can see I've drawn some dimensions here. It's really easy to use. You just click on the dimension tool and you see how it highlights blue when you select a line, and when when you just click on that line, you can see that the dimensioning tool here brings it up, and you can see that that's 18 3/4. So I know that when I make my cut list, which I do talk about in the next video, very important to make a cut list when you're making cabinets, that I'm just going to make the bottom shelf is I'm going to have to cut one piece at 18 3/4 by 13. And then I'm going to cut these back pieces here, and this piece, they're going to be 13 by whatever the dimensions that they need to be. And I'll go, sketch that out real quick and use the dimensioning tool. But again, it's very, very helpful to have that before you make your cut list. Okay, anyway, final word, sorry, and hope this wasn't too long and hope it helps you out. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.